Okay, give me a second.
Mhm.
Okay, we're alive.
Good evening. This is a call to order for the Instruction and Support Services Committee. Today's date is January 18th, 2024. The time is now 7:16 p.m. In attendance, there's a lot of people in attendance. My name is Jennifer Perez. I am the chair of this committee. Committee member Willie Medina is also on. I see board member Joe Sokolovic on. And I'm just going through the list. Are there any other board members that we see? I think that's it for board members. See Dr. Levy.
Woodson is actually here with me.
Okay, I see. Okay, committee member Andre Woodson is in with Dr. Levy David. And then we have Dr. Avery, Royce Avery and Dr. Saki staff members on as well. And Mr. Planis is also on. So we'll get started. The first item on the agenda is a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the Teaching and Learning Committee dated September 19, 2023. Do we have a motion?
There you go.
I make the motion.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Are there any changes that need to be made for those committee members? Okay. So all in favor? Aye. To approve the meeting minutes, sorry. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain,
Okay, so
as I wasn't here in the last meeting, so I'm not, familiar with all the details. Thank you.
okay. So the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from the Education, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee dated October 16th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Yes. I make a motion.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. Any discussion? I took a look at this. I watched a video on this one and read the meeting minutes. I did see one change that needed to be made, a really minor change on the third page of the notes of the meeting minutes. Second paragraph, where it says new beginnings has 2.2% of ELL students. It's a slight change, and that's actually 2.3%. So if we can, I want to make an amendment to that. So if somebody will second that amendment.
I second it.
I
Okay,
will
thank
second, no
you.
problem.
And all in favor of the
Aye.
amendment? Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So the amendment passes. So all in favor of the amended meeting minutes? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes. And then the last approval of meeting minutes for Students and Families Committee dated November 15th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you. So this motion to approve the meeting minutes of the Students and Families Committee. I'll second that. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain again.
Thank you. So that motion also passes. And so the first item on the agenda is or the fourth item, is the discussion and possible referral to the full board for approval to enter into an agreement with Relay. And I see, I think Timothy Maines is going to present on this.
Yes,
Okay.
hello, everybody. May I
Welcome.
have permission to share my screen?
Oh. Shit. Hold on, Timothy.
Thank you. As that is getting set up, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Tim Maines. I'm the Managing Director of Partnerships for Relay's professional education team. I'm really excited to be here with all of you tonight to share a little bit more about Relay, our impact with our partners from around the country, and some more details about our proposed scope of work in partnership with Bridgeport Public Schools. And I see that I now have permission to share, so bear with me one moment while I pull up.
Yes, you should be all set.
Okay, great. Are you all able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
That's
So
great.
as I was saying, I'm really excited to be here with all of you and excited to share some more details about the proposal that we have developed in collaboration thus far with Drs. Avery and Levy David. And we're really excited because this proposed scope of work is directly aligned with your district priorities of developing teacher capacity, immersing the district in instructional leadership practices, and introducing instructional frameworks to improve Tier 1 instruction. But before I review the key elements of the partnership proposal, I wanted to start today's presentation by sharing a little bit more about who we are at Relay Graduate School of Education and the work that we do in partnership with K-12 institutions around the country, which I think will help frame the proposed scope of work. So the best place to start that is to start with our mission and vision statement. So Relay Graduate School of Education is a nationally accredited, not-for-profit institution of higher education, and we serve pre-K through 12th grade teachers and school and system level leaders at every level of their career all around the country. And the mission and vision statement that you see on the screen is really our why. It grounds everything that we do here at Relay. And since the inception of Relay's professional education programs 11 years ago, we have trained over 9,500 leaders through all of our professional education programs. And you can see some of the highlights of feedback that we received from participants over those years. And we are really proud of the really positive feedback that we consistently receive from our participants, not only about the quality of our content, but also its impact on their work. And we've also trained over 20,000 teachers since we launched our teacher professional education programs in 2019. And you can see we received very similarly positive feedback from those participants as well. And all of our programs at Relay are designed to do a few key things. One is center equitable practice in service of creating inclusive conditions where all students can truly thrive. The second is to honor research, but provide actionable frameworks based on that research that are proven to drive success for all students. And third, everything that we do is grounded in practice and feedback, because we believe at Relay that the best way to master a new skill is to have time to practice it and to hone it before you deploy it out in the field. And that's especially true for teaching and leadership positions that are really performance professions. But to circle back very briefly to the research-based and actionable frameworks, I just wanted to quickly share a little bit more detail there. So the frameworks that we use at Relay are based off the Leverage Leadership, Get Better, Faster scope and sequence designed by Paul Barenbrix and Toyo. And those frameworks were developed based on action research from the highest performing principals and supervisors from around the country. So what that team did is they studied the highest performing schools with the lowest economic status. And then they developed frameworks off of what they found all those schools were doing to truly move the needle for students. And those frameworks have thus, since then have worked, and they've supported improvements in student outcomes across all partner types across the entire country, from a single site charter school to a large public school district like New York City Public Schools. And I also want to highlight that research is continuously ongoing. We continuously update our frameworks based off of the real-world success that we're experiencing in partnership with schools around the country. And speaking of successful partnerships, I wanted to share some impact data from 2 of our partnerships from around the country, starting with DC Public Schools. For a little bit of context, 2 of DCPS's public schools clusters were experiencing lagging student achievement. So they identified a need to align leadership across the district in order to improve the teaching and learning across all of the campuses. And to accomplish this goal, DCPS began a multi-year partnership with Relay in school year 18 and 19. And since that year, we have trained over 700 leaders across that district through a multi-year scope of work, which is similar to the proposal that we've designed for you all at Bridgeport, with the goal of building alignment across the district around key instructional frameworks. That partnership with DCPS included professional development that is district-wide and embedded into their PD structures, and then Relay coaching support, which in DCPS was directed towards the instructional superintendents, and that coaching focused on planning and executing systems for coaching, monitoring, and establishing accountability structures in order to support effective implementation of the PD content. And together, in partnership with DCPS, we've achieved really exciting results. And students at these schools have made impressive gains since the partnership began. You can see one quote, one piece of feedback from a leader on the screen, but I want to quickly dive into 3 headlines about the success that we've seen in this partnership. The first headline is that schools in Cluster 3, which is one of the clusters working with Relay support, saw dramatic gains in student achievement in ELA. And ELA was the content priority for the district for our partnership because it was a priority for them to address the post-pandemic literacy gaps that they were experiencing. So we focused on ELA. That we saw dramatic gains in student achievement in ELA, with 9 of the 12 schools in that cluster outpacing the district in growth, and 2 of them achieving double-digit gains. Also, within this cluster, all schools receiving Relay support saw a decrease in the percent of students scoring at the lowest level. The second headline relates to math, where 3 schools in this cluster saw double-digit gains in student proficiency, and this is despite the fact that math was not a priority focus area for us. As I mentioned, ELA was. So it's promising that we also saw growth in math as well, and it's really a sign of not only the depth of the principal's investment in the work, but also the real power of an aligned leadership team's knowledge of the content. Excuse me. And then the third highlight from this partnership is relating to DC's bold performance schools. So in DC, these schools are schools that serve at-risk student populations that also have combined math and ELA proficiency rates that are dramatically higher than schools with similar demographics. And these schools encompass both district and charter schools within the city. And for the second year in a row, DCPS has had 5 schools selected as bold performance schools. And we're really excited because of those 5, 3 of them were in Cluster 3 that were receiving Relay support. The second partnership I want to highlight and share some results from is our work with Pueblo School District in Colorado. The context here is that in 2017, the district was identified as one of the lowest performing in the state. Their student achievement ranked in the bottom 20% for both ELA and math. And based off of the impact of a few of their leaders participating in Relay's national leadership program a few years before this, the district selected us, Relay, as their turnaround support partner, and we launched a multi-year partnership with the district. And over those years, we have provided diverse and tailored support to both the district level leadership and to leaders at the 3 target school campuses. And this partnership used a model of supports similar to those found in our proposal for Bridgeport. And the results of this partnership were also really exciting. Over the course of these 3 years, the focus schools went from being the lowest performing schools to outperforming the district average. Again, you can see a quote from one of the participating principals on the screen, and I have a couple of additional highlights to share based on that impact. The first being that all of the 3 focus schools that were participating in our partnership have either been removed from turnaround status. 2 of the 3 have already been removed from that status. And the third is on a positive trajectory to do so as well. That was just the 3rd school that was entered into the multi-year arc of supports. So we're really excited about that trajectory of that 3rd school to also be removed from that status. The second headline is a specific example from one of those schools, Minnequaw Elementary. They saw significant growth for their students in both ELA and math compared to their peers in the district and also throughout the state of Colorado. And it was actually exciting because they saw such incredible student growth that they were actually spotlighted by the governor of Colorado, which was really exciting for us to learn. And then the third impact headline is that teachers in these focus schools reported improved teaching and learning conditions. So every 2 years, teachers in the state of Colorado are giving a teaching and learning conditions survey. It measures a lot of aspects of school and district success. One of those aspects surrounds leadership. So they ask questions like, is this school led by an effective team? Or does the staff feel comfortable raising important issues with school leaders? And while the district results in that survey held steady between 2020 and 2022, the staff at the relay supported schools saw significant increases across the school leadership component of that survey across the same time period. So as we continue our partnership with additional cohorts of schools in Pueblo, we're really excited and looking forward to replicating these results with those additional focus schools. And then the final headline from this partnership with Pueblo is that we found that while all of the campuses participating with us saw growth in teacher satisfaction, those schools that had the greatest level of supports, meaning more frequent coaching, more frequent site visits, were able to see more increased impact at all levels. And we've incorporated findings like this and others from our previous partnerships into our scope of work for Bridgeport. So now I've shared a little bit, some more details about our impact with other partners. I now want to shift to explaining more and sharing more about our proposed scope of work with Bridgeport. And I want to ground that scope of work in Relay's framework for effective school leadership. And this is our theory of action that grounds what we do here at Relay and how we approach this work. So we believe, and we have found success when vertically aligned teams of district leaders, school leaders, and teachers all experience aligned high-quality professional development. That professional development builds skill in the core and proven practices that support outcomes for all students. And then alongside a Relay coach, those skills are honed and refined in order to build the key systems and structures that help support those practices across an entire system. And then effective implementation of those systems drive increased use and efficacy of those core practices, all in support of improving student outcomes over time. So we found that the catalyst for change across a system, especially a large district, is highly engaged leaders, such as your district team, and those leaders investing in a strong foundation of professional development that is then supported by customized and focused PD and coaching that focuses on the diverse needs of district leaders, school leaders, and teachers. So with this framing, I'm excited to review some core components of our proposed scope of work for Bridgeport. So our proposal is designed around 3 core pillars, which will roll out intentionally each year. The first pillar is district level supports. These supports are designed to support a skillful, cohesive, and aligned district team. Supports under this pillar include a core group of district leaders participating in Relay's National Principal Supervisors Academy, quarterly strategic planning, supervisor implementation clinics, and executive coaching. The second pillar is cohort by cohort focus school supports, which are designed to provide in-school and virtual coaching directly to the selected school leaders in each cohort every year. And in addition to the in-school and virtual coaching, this pillar also includes additional targeted PD and strategic consulting for those school leaders. And then finally, the third pillar of our proposal is teacher professional education. And this pillar is designed to create alignment, that alignment that we have found is so critical for success, and investment across all the levels within the district, including the teachers who are most directly engaging with students. So a critical component of the success of this work. And I also want to note here that we have built into the proposal strategic opportunities within each of the 3 pillars at no additional cost for board members, other key stakeholders like committee members, to have the opportunity to see the work in action across all those pillars in order to better understand the impact and to support that effective implementation. So we're really excited to have lots of you participate with us and see all the great work that we can do together. And the multi-year proposal that we have developed includes a strategic plan to execute the work in all 3 of those pillars with focused groups and schools each year in order to gradually and intentionally scale the work across a district. So at the district level, what does that look like? Each year, we would identify a cohort of district level leaders to attend the National Principal Supervisors Academy. We anticipate being able to train the core leadership team within 3 years. So you see that support drop off starting in year 4, but that program will continue to run. So it's always an option if there are new leaders who are joining the district, or for some reason a key leader has not yet attended that program, that could continue in year 4, but we don't anticipate it being the primary focus of the supports for district level leaders in that year. We would also prioritize district-wide leader training in the first 3 years. As I mentioned, it's that building that strong foundation is how we found the most success. So we prioritize the district-wide leader training in the first 3 years. And then each year of the services within this pillar for district level supports includes the customized support that I was mentioning, the additional targeted professional development, coaching, etc. And then that customized support will become the primary focus area for supports in years 4 and beyond. In terms of the school level supports, so this would be pillars 2 and 3, so leaders and teachers, we will take a cohort by cohort approach to the work for those pillars. So the year 1 cohort will begin with 9 schools, and those 9 schools will begin a 3-year arc of content of professional development and coaching. At the same time, the teachers in those 9 schools will also begin their own 3-year arc of professional development that is directly aligned to the professional development that their school leaders are receiving. So that is a lot of information, but it concludes my presentation. We're really incredibly excited about the potential impact of this partnership. We are incredibly grateful to Drs. Avery and Dr. Levy-David for their collaboration thus far, and we're really excited about the potential of this opportunity. So with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Okay. We'll start with committee members. Mr. Medina, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I was just reading some of the things. You had mentioned that we're going to start with 9 schools.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, because I was just seeing some literature that was shared with us, and it was just stating that it could start with 12 priority schools that were referred, and the 11.8 call with your team. So I was just wondering, when will this program start? And you had mentioned that it was some things were step by step with 3 years, and some went into 4 year. So the whole program is a 4-year kind of like box.
So the arc of content for all 3 pillars is a 3-year arc of content. So every time we start a new cohort, it is a 3-year arc. So what that looks like years 4 and beyond, we can continue to run that 3-year arc of content, or starting in year 4, we might find that we have enough of the content starting in the district that we can narrow the arc of content starting in year 4 and beyond to a 2-year arc. It really depends if we are starting to see success from that district-wide training that is prioritized at the beginning of the scope of work. we're hoping we can find gains to shorten the arc of content years 4 and beyond. But for now, it is a 3-year arc of content for both the school leaders and the teachers.
And as I stated earlier, that there were, I see in my notes here, literature that was shared with me, it was 12, and you said 9. Have we identified those 9 schools?
I would defer to Dr. Avery and Dr. Levy-David about that. I'm not sure if the exact schools have been selected.
Okay, I apologize because I am one of that way I introduced myself, William Medina. I'm actually one of the newest board members. So I just started, I got sworn in December 1st. First meeting was December 11th. So I'm kind of new. So these questions might be some things that the other board members might have known. So I do apologize, but I'll refer to our chair. And if I have any questions, I'll raise my hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Avery, did you want to answer that question or?
Mr. Medina, we started with 12, but we kind of scaled back a little bit in order to make sure that we have enough of the campuses that we will start every single year. We have not finalized the 9 campus that will start the first year, but we're looking at different options of being able to look at schools that are currently in turnaround, schools that are successful. We're trying to balance that out a little bit in order to pick the schools. Again, we have not finalized that yet, but once we get a little bit more direction and approval from the board, we will solidify those and make sure that we get that to the full board to consider those first initial schools that will start the program.
Thank you. Mr. Woodson, do you have questions?
No, I'm all good.
And I know I was present at the last committee meeting when this was discussed, and just from hearing today, the idea is to obviously build teacher capacity. So is this going to eventually, this might be for Dr. Levy-David or Dr. Avery, but will we eventually be able to build the district leaders who will then offer the same professional development to other schools? Is that the way that this is working?
This is Dr. Levy-David.
Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm talking while I still have voice. So yes, as we are more and more embedded into our various cohorts, we will begin to have the expertise to then deliver that training ourselves to the professionals that are in our district and any newcomers that we have in the district.
Thank you. And then the other question is, I have 2 more questions, and then I'll go to you, Mr. Sakalovic. As far as, I lost my question. Give me a second. Oh, first, this will be for Dr. Levy-David. Is this a sole source project, or?
It is a sole source. It is a sole source provider, yes.
And can you just explain what makes it a sole source for us?
I will defer to Mr. Maines.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we own our content, so we're the sole provider of those frameworks that I was explaining have seen success around the country. So those are our intellectual property. We are a sole source provider of the leverage leadership, get better, faster, scope and sequence frameworks.
Okay. I forgot my last question, so I'll refer to you, Mr. Sakalovic, if you would like to ask a question. I remember it now, but go ahead. You can ask yours.
Yeah, thank you. Cost. I haven't heard the cost of this program. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
If you want to go, you can go through that if you like.
I just have to pull it up. So give me 1 second. It does vary slightly year by year because of the cohort structure. But let me pull up the pricing quickly. Bear with me 1 moment, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. It's loading right now. So the year one total is, here, I can share my screen again, actually. Okay. So the year one total is a little over 1.3. Year two, as we bring in that second cohort of schools, is a little over 2 million. Year three, when we have all three cohorts running at the same time, is 2.6. And then the fourth year, as some of those initial cohorts start finishing their arc of support, it goes back down to 1.5.
Okay, another question as far as the programming. Is it necessary to have all the years of this contract for the program to be effective?
It is important to finish out the scope, the 3-year arc of content to see true results. This work is difficult work. It's long-term work, and it requires an investment of multiple years to truly see success, especially across a district. Where we've found success is following plans like this, where there's a very strategic, intentional plan to scale across the district. So we have learned, and we've worked with Drs. Avery and Levy-David to understand your context. This is what we believe will be the most successful to truly drive those student outcomes, is if we have a 3-year arc of content. So that would be the minimum, I would say, but that is the first couple focus schools. The more cohorts, the more impact then exponentially comes from that.
Okay, thank you. I think that I got a couple more questions, but they're going to be more related to staff. Do we have any program like this currently existing? Is this like a new program or new expenditure, or is it replacing an old expenditure?
Well, we have several that are expiring, but this is a brand new approach to aligning instruction and improving student outcomes in the district long-term in a scalable and sustainable way.
Okay, and what funding? I'm sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. Continue, please.
Yeah, you know, we have approximately, the last time I counted, it's I'm gonna count them because I don't want to give you a wrong number. Excuse me. We have 9 campuses currently in turnaround status. That means that they are the lowest 5% performing schools in the state of Connecticut. They're in the lowest 5% of performance. And so we are very committed. Those are not the only schools that we have. We also have schools that are part of the commissioner's grants. We have schools that are part of school improvement. We have schools that we're also an alliance district, and we have focus schools. So we have schools in various stages of failure or failing to meet standards. But the lowest performing are those that I just named, the turnaround campuses. So we're very invested in a program that has a solid reputation, that is research-based, and that has a proven model of partnership that not only aligns with our district and instructional goals, but also aligns with our desire to ensure that everyone is accountable for the learning and for the efforts to turn around student learning in the district from central office to the classroom level.
And my next question is funding source.
The funding is currently available. I've already worked with Ms. Siegel to identify funding, and we currently have funding available.
What budget is it coming from? Operating budget, ESSERs, grants?
A combination.
Combination. Okay, so this will be, and okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
And this is kind of a follow-up to Mr. Sokolovic's question. First of all, I would like to regularly reflect that I believe Mr. Benahan has joined the meeting. Sorry, I didn't call your name earlier. It's hard to see all the names, but he's here.
That's okay, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
Before I ask my question, do you have a question?
No, not this moment. Thank you.
Okay. It's kind of a follow-up to that question that Mr. Sokolovic asked about what we're offering already currently in the district. Do we have anything in the district that is like uniform throughout school to school? And will this eventually be that program?
We currently do not have a uniform aligned system of learning for our teachers in the district. We currently do not have a curriculum in the district. We currently do not have a systemized annual training that supports every single campus in the same way or actually individualizes based on campus need or performance. We currently do not have a way to train staff as they arrive and they're onboarded, and as we have attrition with our teaching staff. We don't have a program that does that. And we're looking for something that is going to be able to cover all those bases. Hence, our efforts to find something that would work in a cohort style, where we would have schools working for multiple years to gain capacity, build those experts on the campus level, and to be able to make the work sustainable, scalable, and sustainable over the course of the next 5 years.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions for any committee members? All right. Any board members as well? Mr. Mays, I want to say thank you for showing us the comparisons with other districts. That was helpful, especially some of those districts had similar demographics to ours. So it was helpful to see the comparisons to see what we could eventually look like if we approve this. So I appreciate that. So at this point, I want to entertain a motion if somebody would like to move to, Mr. Medina?
Thank you. One question, I don't know if it's going to Mr. Timothy or Mrs. Levy. When are we looking to try to, besides after the vote, when are we looking to try to implement these services?
The services will be implemented beginning in the fall semester of 2024. But we will actually have professional development that will occur in the summer.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to see what window we have, because I don't want to prolong things, and I want to, of course, give our district the best resources for success. So I appreciated that time, and I just wanted to find that out. That way we can get more resources. Because I look forward to, like Mr. Timothy said, to just get to see a direct insight for us to see and to meet and see the programs in action and to understand how everything is. So I welcome that invite for me to accept it. So thank you, guys.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Oh, Dr. Avery? Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Medina, I think the other part is that if we get things approved by the board by the end of the month, what will happen first between now and summer training is that really we'll come in and do an assessment, and just try to really for them to get their eyes on the district. They'll go through different campuses, they'll meet with staff, they'll meet with leadership, just to really get a feel for, what's happening at the ground level, which will help build, the program when administrators go to training this summer. So again, there's just a lot of initial things that will have to happen. So between now or like March and June and July before training starts, they'll assess, they'll come back, they'll give us a report, the things that they see, target areas that we can focus in on in order to have a better return on the investment moving forward. So again, there's just a lot of really neat things for us to grab hold of as a district as we lead into the brand new way of how we're going to approach teaching and learning across.
Thank you for that insight.
At this point, I want to entertain a motion to refer this to the full board for approval to enter into agreement with Relay. Would somebody like to move that?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Do I have a second? I'll second it. For committee members, all in favor to move it to the board? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, so the motion passes. It's going to go to the full board on the next meeting, which will be this Monday coming up, the 22nd. Okay, thank you, Mr. Maines.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward. Bye.
Next up, we have a presentation from Hanover Research.
Hello. I'm going to pull up my screen here really quickly. 1 second. My name is Lindsay Howe. I'm a senior director at Hanover Research. I'm also joined by my colleague, Dr. Matt Ragone. He's a senior research advisor. One thing I also want to note too, Matt is a part of our content and research team. He's a former district administrator and practitioner, which we have a lot of those on our staff. I've been working with the district leaders the last few months at Bridgeport about utilizing research to inform the following priorities. So strengthening instructional practices, data literacy and assessment, program evaluations, specifically evaluating programs added under ESSER funding, and an analysis of staffing and HR district-wide. Really tonight, my plan is to share an overview of Hanover Research and how we support districts like Bridgeport, our model of support, and an overview of planned deliverables for Bridgeport specifically. Hanover Research, we are a custom research and professional services firm specializing in K-12 education. We work with about 400 districts nationwide, also a number of state departments of education, regional agencies, and we serve these groups through a membership model, including several districts in Connecticut that would be considered your peer districts. Hanover supports these districts in the 4 key areas that are displayed on the screen here. So the first being custom research. This is what we're best known for. We design custom research to support improved outcomes that's specific to each district. Common methodologies include surveys, focus groups, in-depth interviews, data analysis, best practices, peer benchmarking, focus groups. We have over 200 different areas of research expertise on our staff. The next gear there in orange, think of this as implementation support and action planning as it relates to the research. A member of your designated research team will lead workshops and quarterly consults to empower district leaders to make informed decision-making using completed research. The Educator Learning Center. This is not something we're proposing for Bridgeport at this point, but I wanted to highlight it. This is a district-wide professional development platform that includes self-paced courses like classroom management, social emotional learning, instructional design, and others. This tool is used to drive staff development and retention for districts. And then the last bucket there is Hanover Digital. So this is a library of syndicated research, tools and discussion guides, peer benchmarking and best practices across K-12 topic areas. Any of the work that we do on the research side, if we're able to redact it and make it available, we can. So we add topic areas to that library almost on a weekly basis. This next slide here illustrates the life cycle of a research project. And it really kind of identifies our approach to research. So we complete research sequentially as part of a queue, meaning we create a scope of work that includes a series of research projects that we deliver one at a time. We believe in a mixed methods approach to provide comprehensive research. So for example, a survey can tell us a lot. We typically use things like a Likert scale, but layered in with qualitative feedback, such as in-depth interviews, really expands our understanding of perception data. Layered with data analysis, that really provides a comprehensive look at the particular topic area. Our model is rooted in flexibility, meaning that we are continually scoping the needs of the district and presenting research deliverables best suited to maximize academic impact. Research projects are presented in a series so as not to duplicate work. In the case of Bridgeport, looking to utilize Hanover across multiple priorities, if we can identify areas where we can combine forces, that's a high priority of our research team. You'll have a designated group of staff members at Hanover to support Bridgeport specifically to make sure that that repetition doesn't occur. After the conclusion of each research project, Hanover debriefs key findings and recommendations. We'll train the district on use of any deliverable. So in the event that we create something like a dashboard or a data workbook, we're going to make sure that district leaders know how to use it and interpret the data. We can also create capstone deliverables to inform constituent groups, such as the school board and the community. These often illustrate progress and impact occurring from the research, especially if we're doing this over multiple projects at a time. I'm going to flip into the slide about what we're proposing with Bridgeport. This is based off of discussions with various board members and district level leaders. And we're suggesting support based on 4 key areas. So high quality instruction often takes the shape of an instructional audit, data literacy, an assessment, staffing, HR analysis, and program evaluation. And I had linked within this proposal as well a very detailed scope that has those project descriptions, but also happy to have on hand. I'll also have this in physical format at the board meeting on Monday if this is recommended for that. But really here more specifically, district leadership has expressed a desire for Hanover to deliver research to understand the use of assessments and grading practices, if those are standardized across the district and if they're aligned to state standards. For Hanover to complete a data analysis of student outcomes district-wide that looks at academic, programmatic, and demographic indicators of success. This would likely be delivered through a dashboard to visualize the data at various levels, including school, grade level, district-wide, and a year-over-year analysis of performance. A third-party evaluation of programs across the district to determine a return on investment or if they're being implemented with fidelity. And positions created to understand staffing needs, as well as strengthen data literacy practices district-wide. Here on this screen, I wanted to talk a little bit about our approach to an instructional audit, meaning we create a framework to examine how instruction is planned, designed, delivered, and assessed. We know that there's many components to instruction that need to work together to improve student outcomes, and this is going to include things like curriculum, materials, assessment, standards, teacher evaluation, professional development. We want to gather feedback from staff on their input on how effective these components are in their ability to deliver high quality instruction. We'll look at data on student outcomes to help the district monitor if inputs, resources, and programs are improving academic outcomes. We also have the ability to take past data from past years to look at longitudinal performance. But our data analysis really looks at that student outcome across all indicators, since we know that the impact of instruction extends outside of the classroom as well. Typically, the first phase of an instructional audit is about collecting and centralizing data to establish a baseline for performance and for monitoring. Hanover will guide district leadership in identifying opportunities and risks from what the data reveals. We'll look to deliver root cause analysis, as in, why do these gaps in instruction occur and how do we mitigate them? I also want to take a minute here to make the distinction between Hanover and Relay here. Hanover's goal is to provide research identifying gaps in alignment with the many components of instruction. Our advisory support is connected to action planning from that research. So in many cases, when we're looking especially at the data analysis of things, we have a lot of district leaders who will tie that back to their strategic plan and progress monitoring. Hanover's work can inform and support the services Relay is planning as they work with district-wide staff, as they work with staff district-wide to strengthen practices. Additionally, if the district looks to evaluate the efficacy of Relay or any other program, Hanover is a leader in program evaluation. We have worked in tandem with many vendors to ensure we're not duplicating work as well. And to summarize, the work being presented to assess and understanding instruction layered with data analysis of student outcomes over time is going to create an understanding for the district to improve those outcomes And then really from there, we move into effective program evaluations. So we really look at it from a macro perspective and then start to get very specific into a program evaluation. So we may evaluate a district special education program. We may look to evaluate what does your summer school programming look like. We may go into the core subjects of ELA, of math, or even look at vendors within those. There. I did provide some visuals here just so that you can see how our timelines tend to work. So when we work with districts, again, we deliver research one at a time. What we're recommending with Bridgeport is 2 sets of research occurring simultaneously. And we're also recommending a multi-year agreement. We can walk through how that looks through the fees component as well. Now, I should note here that this is from initial scoping conversations. So we fully anticipate that this is a working plan with a working scope that is subject to change based on district input. So the process that we have here, highly collaborative, and it's also timeline based. So if the district is seeking to have information, for example, to inform summer planning, we're going to utilize that research first as part of our sequential process. Here, as I flip into our fees, we've presented 2 options to the district. And again, we're suggesting a multi-year agreement. There are opt-out components of a multi-year agreement. The benefit to the district in entering into a multi-year agreement is you maintain pricing over the course of that time. Option 1 here, this is a 1-year agreement. And this is what we call our strategy membership, which really just means we're working on 2 sets of research at the same time, plus our advisory work there. We anticipate about 8 to 12 completed projects here within that process. And the annual fee there is listed. In the event that the district would like us to do focus groups as part of this, that happens while research is ongoing, so we can come on site and deliver those those focus groups. But again, that's an optional component there. If the district wanted to do a strategy membership with additional research, so this is really based on the timing and the needs of the district. So if we wanted to take a look at all 4 of the priority areas that we've identified with the district early on, and we wanted to do research in 1, 2, 3, and 4 particular areas, you do all have the flexibility to do that. You'll see the fee there, that's an annual fee, but we can also adjust that in years 2 and years 3 there. And I anticipate questions there, as this might be a little confusing if we talk about it, but we do have the ability to tailor these contracts based on how we deliver that research there. I'm going to pause here, and I welcome any questions you all have.
Thank you. Let's start with committee members. Mr. Woodson, do you have questions?
No, I'm all set.
Thank you. Mr. Medina.
Not at this time. Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Traber has joined the meeting. I'll go to you in a second, Mr. Traber. I'm going to ask a question first. I won't ask my question. I realized it was answered in the previous committee, so I don't want to duplicate that question. Mr. Traber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first question would be at the outset of your presentation, you referenced having sat down with board members to design this plan. And I'd like to know what board members you sat down with.
Sorry about that. So we had an initial conversation talking about Hanover that a couple of board members were present at.
I can answer that question, Lindsay.
Go ahead.
The executive board team was present for that training.
So Ms. Baptiste Perez, Ms. Casimir, and Ms. Perez?
The executive board team, yes, sir.
Okay. And then the second question is, among the services that you've just outlined to us, what is it that Hanover is offering that anyone on the Bridgeport Public School staff with an EDD can't do?
Oh gosh, I think that's a pretty broad question.
It is, but your presentation was pretty broad too, and I'm just trying to understand what the difference is between what our current staff can do and what you're offering to do or presenting that you will do.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of the stuff that you laid out is stuff that you would think the existing staff that we have can do.
Sure. And what I'll share there too. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Levin.
I can help answer that question as well. I think that the competence of Hanover Research, which is probably in the top 3 assessment and development research companies in the country, is not in question here. Now would I ask Lindsay to defend it? I can provide you with tons of literature on Hanover Research if you're not familiar with their work. If we had the expertise at the district level to do this work, we would have no need to contract with Relay or with Hanover or any of the other organizations that we are proposing tonight. The expertise is not something that is granted with an EDD. Lots of people get degrees and it doesn't make them experts unless they've been able to practice and apply the learning to gain expertise in those areas. So I'm not going to have Lindsay spend time answering that question because I think it's a bit facetious.
It is not a facetious question. It was an honest question that I would like her to answer. Either here or Monday, I'm going to ask that question, and I would like it to be laid out what it is that they're offering to do. This is a whole boatload of money that we're being asked to spend, and I think it's worth us knowing sort of what it is that's going to be done by this company that we couldn't do in-house.
If you go to slide 5, Mr. Traver, it outlines our high priority areas, which is high quality instruction and instructional audit, data literacy and assessment evaluation, staff and HR analysis evaluation, and overall program evaluation. We are currently a failing district with 9 schools in turnaround status and over a third of our schools in some form of failure status. And over the past 5 superintendents, that issue has not gotten any better and our kids continue to suffer. So what I would like to do is to bring in actual experts, reputable experts in this country who have been successful all over the country with the work that they're doing to support us in that transition. I don't expect you to take my word for it. So I'm bringing in people that have impeccable reputations in the work that they do to help us to do that work. And we have a lot of work to do here in Bridgeport and a lot of broken systems. And you as a board member and as a former teacher in the district probably know that better than I do.
And so I'm sitting outside a building in my car attending this meeting, so I don't have the packet in front of me. Do we have the data that shows us where they have been able to do this in other parts of the country that you're referring to?
That's in the packet. There, especially in Connecticut, there's I think 4 or 5 districts that are using Stamford, Norwalk, and I guess I think South Windsor, West Hartford. I remember that. So 4 districts in Connecticut.
But none of those districts have had the success that you're talking about. So that's what I'm asking about.
And Mr. Traber, what I also would state here too is we often act as a capacity extension of the data support that currently exists within the district. And the other side of that too is the fact that we're able to deliver work faster. We're able to address multiple priority areas at once. And we also have the flexibility. We have 200 different areas of expertise. And so we can switch back and forth between those methodological areas to support the district. That's one thing that we have found with districts who have multiple and complex priorities is that we have a team of researchers that are adept at being able to be flexible in the research needed.
I'll also jump in to say that we work with districts that have very, very large research departments, populated with EDDs and PhDs. And as Lindsay says, they just don't have the capacity to do all the work that's necessary for them to get the answers that they want. The other thing is sometimes it's valuable to the districts that we work with to have a third party unbiased, objective look at your data for us to analyze it with the experience that we have with other districts. We have the ability with the kind of the visibility that we have with work all over the nation to benchmark how you're doing against peer districts or districts with that have had success. So it's that kind of visibility that I don't know your EDDs, or I'm sure they're smart. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I'm sure they're really valuable to the district. But it's just the positioning that we have through the nature of our work that brings that additional capacity.
I can understand that. Could you give me some examples of some of those districts that you've had that success?
Yeah, well, we work with over Lindsay, probably 250, 300 districts. So we're not the only factor in the success that they have, but we work with Alexandria City Public Schools here in Virginia, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, those really big districts that have humongous data departments, and yet they still see the need for utilizing our expertise just based on the positioning that we have. Somebody mentioned the several Connecticut districts that we're working with. I don't have that in front of me, but Norwalk, West Hartford are two that I heard and that I've worked with personally, and their growth and achievement gaps are works in progress, of course, but certainly seeing the expertise and the research that helps them minimize those gaps or implement the programs that they want to implement with fidelity are certainly seeing progress.
Yeah, and I understand that, and we're just trying to, as a board, since this is Thursday and we're being asked Monday to make a decision on what may be $1 million contract, if I understood what was laid out as one of the options.
We're significantly different than we're significantly under $1 million.
That wasn't that high.
Yeah, but I understand.
I thought one of the options that I saw was a $260,000 multi-year option per year, multi-year option.
I see what you're saying.
Sure.
Yeah, that was
you're approaching $800,000 with that option, depending on you had the focus groups or not the focus groups. So that's what I'm looking at. So we're looking to be able to go online and research Alexandria, Chicago, Los Angeles, West Hartford or Hartford. I heard both towns mentioned, Stamford, Norwalk, the towns mentioned on the specific package we got in Connecticut, but also towns around the country that you mentioned, where you said that you've had an impact. Atlanta, to see to reach out to. In Connecticut, we can reach out to the organizations, but in the other, we can go online and see what kind of experience how they're doing, and what on what we can find out before Monday night, before we are being asked to vote on such a decision.
Can I add something? Can it ask Dr. Levy-David, which option are we looking at, option 1 or 2? And I also want to add that this has been in our packet for the past 2 weeks. So it's not something that's going to be surprised on us on Monday.
I didn't have that packet because of not being in the country.
Okay, sorry about that then.
Yeah, and I was just able to get a hold of it in the less than a week.
Mm-hmm. So I know there's 2 options, Dr. Levy-David.
We're looking at option 1.
Okay, which is the
1 year. Is that the 1 year,
yes,
Dr.
It'd be $130,000 for the 1 year. The district can opt into a multi-year agreement to maintain pricing, but that has opt-outs in there. And Mr. Traber, too, I'm also happy to forward a number of case studies that we have available. We keep those publicly on our website. Happy to share those with you.
That'd be great with the board, members of the board. Not
Yes,
just me.
yes, oh, definitely.
That would be great.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that, yeah, too.
Okay.
Mr. Sokolovic?
Yes, I got a couple of questions, and these have no reflection on the integrity, professionalism of the firm. We are a district that is in not only in the bottom of the heap, but in dire financial straits, and every dollar is very dear. And when $1 is spent, it can't be spent somewhere else. So my questions are basically on the financial end, and as far as saving money, because I think my questions are mostly for staff. Mr. Traver's question was, made me think of it. Yeah, you may be correct at the EDDs. Not all EDDs are created the same, but we've been building capacity in our executive staff at the very top of the heap. Is there not any executive staff that could take on some of this work?
I think from what I guess Dr. Lever David can answer this, but from what I'm understanding is the work that's going to be put into this is like a separate job, a whole full-time job.
It requires a whole separate team.
So it would, I'm assuming if we put, let's say, Dr. Saki on this is what he's working on, and maybe not working on other things that he's supposed to be working on. But Dr. Lever David, maybe you probably have a better answer than that.
Yeah, the actual assessment of effectiveness program evaluation component with every single large district, such as like the district I come from, has a data analysis team that this is all they do is do program evaluation all day, every day, and gather data and look at outcomes and compare them longitudinally. And when they're not able to come up with answers, then they turn to companies like Hanover Research to support them in identifying the high leverage areas that they can focus on if they don't have the resources, or if they are not able to make a decision about what the high leverage areas are. And so no matter how many experts you have at the table, there are always individuals who have greater expertise and greater finesse at doing this type of work than those of us who are tasked with actually the day-to-day of running a district.
And if I can jump in here too, on the return on investment components here, I pulled up a slide here that walks through this. We have a number of districts who come to us to evaluate not only the effectiveness of programs, but the return on investment. How do I know that my programs are working? How do we know that our dollars are being used appropriately? That is a huge component, especially with ESSER funding. Right now, I would say that that's a pretty consistent conversation nationwide of how do we keep these programs, or how do we strategically abandon them? In one case, we worked with the Nashville School District, very large district, and we realized that they had multiple reading programs. And so they came to us and said, which one is working? Can that one be distributed across all of our districts? And what do we need to know about it? And so what we were able to do is identify a significant savings for the district to utilize one reading program over the other. I just share that as an example, but that return on investment piece is a huge component of program evaluation to make sure that these programs are working within the school district.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. That's definitely helpful. And back to district staff questions. Back to funding source.
Yes.
Dr. Levy-David, the funding source?
Yes, we've identified funding for this program as well. We've strategically abandoned programs in order not to continue to waste money in areas where we're not seeing any return on investment with student achievement, in order to invest those funds in the programs that we're proposing tonight.
So it'll be like a net wash on the, at worst, a net wash on the operating budget?
It will never be a neck to neck or net wash, because we've spent millions over the past 3 to 4 years in ESSER funding on programs that have not yielded results.
Right,
I cannot regain ESSER funds that have already been spent on programs. And we purchased over 22 programs in this district in the last 5 years and seeing no results. I can't get that money back.
Understood. My question is, are we adding to our expenditures overall in operating budget, which in turn adds to the deficit that we currently have between funding and expenditures?
Right. I'm not aware of that deficit, but to answer your question, we've identified funding to pay for the program.
Oh, okay, okay. I got to digest that for a while. Thank you.
Mr. Medina?
Yes, thank you. And if I can just piggyback a little bit on that question that Joe had, but actually more on the answer. I think what Ms. Davis was saying, that there are programs that have been identified that have not brought forth true benefits to the district, which those programs are going to be pushed to the side, and instead of those programs being active, they're going to be deactivated, and these programs like Hanover are going to be basically substituting those programs, if I'm understanding that, Mrs. Davis.
Dr. Levy-David?
The Hanover will not be substituting. Hanover is a standalone, unlike anything that we've ever purchased in this district, and so is Relay. But we do have programs that have run their course. We have programs that we will not be continuing with, and we have programs that have expired. And we have spent millions of ESSER funds on those programs over the past 3 to 5 years.
I appreciate your answer. So the answer to my question was yes, because I was leaning on your side saying that we're going to be, I'm not saying that Hanover is going to be substituting a program that is like Hanover itself, but yet a program that we're not going to be using. That way you're thinking of those funds that we have already been spending. You're going to say, we're not going to do those programs because this is a better program or whatever. And, that's how you're saying that we have the, you have the funding kind of like lined up. And that's what you just mentioned. My second question is for you, Mr. Is how many years are we looking at kind of like contracting Hanover? What are the years that we're trying to look at? How many years? That's my next question.
Sure.
For Dr. Levy-David, or?
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Medina, was that for Dr. Levy-David or?
I don't know who has that answer to that question.
Okay.
So it's
Sorry.
a question, I believe, for both tables, Mrs.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yes.
the superintendent or Miss Lindsay.
Well, and I can share, we tend to take an annual approach with districts. We know that projects are going to build off of each other. So again, like that comprehensive analysis of multiple projects occurring. So that 1 year is a component. We're recommending that the district look at 3 years. However, with that said, the number of districts that we work with really fluctuates. We have some districts who have worked with us for 15 years. We have some districts that come in and ask for a very specific ask, work with us for a year, and then potentially come back at some point.
I hear you. So Miss Levy, how many years are you considering?
Sorry. How many years are we considering, you asked?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You're on mute, Dr. Levy-David.
We are going with option 1, which right now is a year it's actually 1 year where they'll be prioritizing several different areas. And we will assess at the end of that year if we need to continue with the second year.
Understood. Thank you for your answer, because I just want to, same thing as Mr. Joe and everything, just thinking that if we do lock them in for definitely a 2-year, then we can lock in the price, as Ms. Lindsay had mentioned. We want to try to save as much as possible instead of going into the second year and have an increase of another, whatever, 20, 30,000, whatever the case might be. So I was just asking if there was a thought about how many years we would like to try to have them contracted. So thank you, guys.
So ultimately, for $130,000, we're looking at a program that can possibly save us millions in of those 20 different programs that we have. Dr. Levy-David or somebody, just to confirm that?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's my question. Now you answer my question. Mr. Benahan, and then we're gonna move on.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. This question is from, let's say, hi, this is Mr. Benahan. I have a two questions. This gonna be this program is gonna be the special need students are gonna be involved, and second, it's gonna be different language, just in case somebody need. I just want to know, confirm with you, please.
Yes, no, that's a great question. When we look at demographic groups, we look at, of course, your racial makeup, but we also look at special education students, 504 students, by gender, by access to gifted and talented programs, access to AP programs. So we're looking at a wide variety. All of the work that we do, especially community facing. So if we do a survey, we have the ability to translate it into multiple languages. And we really work with the district to identify what are the languages within your district that you will need this. When we are doing especially survey work, we need to make sure that we have a representative sample population of the district. And so that includes hard to reach demographics within the district. And we know that language can be a challenge there. And so we work on that translation piece to try to collect as much of that perception data as possible.
Thank you, John Howard. Thank you, Ms. Perez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. That was a great question. So now, committee members, I would like to entertain a motion to refer this to the full board, an agreement to enter in an approval to enter into an agreement with Hanover. So somebody will second that, so we can refer it to the full board.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Woodson. Committee members, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I heard you, Mr. Woodson. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain, please.
All right, so the motion does pass. We will see you, Ms. Howe, on Monday at our regular board meeting at on the 22nd.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, I believe Mr. Planas is going to present on. It's an agreement with HeyTutor.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Outstanding. Let me share my screen here. Just share my PowerPoint. 1 second, please. I apologize. Do I have the rights to share my screen? Can you see?
Not yet. I think you gotta ask for that,
I
and
think you have presenter. I think you have presenter privilege. You're on the presenter list.
Yes, you have rights, Mr. Planas.
I'm trying to share the screen and it doesn't allow me to. Let's see. Share. Screen window. PowerPoint share. We need permission to share the screen. Go to security, privacy, start recording. No, I don't need that.
What PowerPoint are we trying to find? I could share it.
The high dosage tutoring. Do you have it there, Sam?
I'm looking. The HeyTutor?
Yes.
Yep, I has it. Hold on.
I apologize. I had. There he goes. Thank you. I have the pleasure of tonight of presenting the high dosage tutoring grant. We're planning to partner with a company called HeyTutor for this grant. Sam, can you go to the next one? And so our purpose tonight is to acquire approval to engage in a contract with HeyTutor to provide tutoring services to 2 schools. Our grant allowed us to do so. We received $240,000 from the Connecticut State Department of Education, and with this amount of money, it allowed us to basically do a small pilot of offering 17 weeks of tutoring to 2 schools, Geraldine Johnson and Fairchild Wheeler. Now, we chose these schools for many reasons. First of all, Geraldine Johnson has a very population that has had English language learners as well as special ed students, and a very diverse population in that school. And so it will be a great place to put a program like this in place. Also, Fairchild Wheeler has also a very diverse population. We were looking, when we were selecting at the high school level, we were selecting schools that have principals that have been there for some time and that accepted the role of being part of this program and who will provide full support. And so Fairchild Wheeler, from the very beginning, said, yes, we will do it. We will change our schedule, whatever it needs. So we were happy to partner with them. Sam, the next one. And so in brief, the Connecticut State Department of Education allocated $10 million from the American Rescue Plan, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding. This program was provided to provide tutoring for grades 6 through 9 for mathematics in accordance to evidence-based guidelines. And there were several companies that were selected from the Connecticut State Department of Education. And amongst those, some were selected for in-person tutor and others were selected for virtual tutoring. Now, in our district, we had tried already to do a lot of things virtually. And as you know, if you have been through the school system or even have students who went through COVID, you know that the virtual aspect, the entire virtual aspect was very difficult for students, especially for those who were learning mathematics. It's extremely difficult not to have someone in front of you to really learn a concept of skill in mathematics. Next one. And so when we thought about the grant, we thought about doing it in person. We looked at the list and started looking at the features that each one of those, I believe there were 6 different organizations provided, and we actually went through each one to select the very best, and we came up with HeyTutor. We also liked about this grant, we liked that HeyTutor had in-person tutoring. And as I mentioned before, we received $240,500 to cover tutoring fees, supplies, and equipment for this project. HeyTutor would only be, the cost was $211,970. And this is for 17 weeks of tutoring. We will get 12 tutors, which they will train, and Gabriel Ning will explain a little bit more about that. Next slide. And so our plan is to provide in-person tutoring during the day, not after school, but during the day, during our WIN block. Each school has a WIN block. WIN stands for what I need. What I need meaning what students need at that time. Students are put in pods, in groups of 3 to 5 students, where they are they're basically selected by their needs. So if, for example, I'm teaching a 6th grade lesson on fractions, addition of fractions, and I have some students that need help in combining, common denominator, so I could put them together in one group and teach those students for X amount of time. Now, the beauty of having a tutor during that time is that they could also help in lowering the amount of groups that the teacher has to see. So students will get double dosage of this tutoring that is provided during the WIN block. The WIN block is taught 4 times a week, about 20 to 30 minutes each day, and groups are rotated throughout. Each group sees a teacher for approximately 10 to 12 minutes. We utilize the data to gauge student progress throughout, and the placement, the focus is not on basically intervening, but helping the student, moving the student forward so that they could access the instruction that is happening in the classroom. So we don't want skills that will not be used in the classroom to be taught during this time. We want skills that teachers will be utilizing as part of their regular mathematics instruction. And so, next slide, please. And so I have the pleasure of introducing Gabriel Ning, who we have been speaking for about 2 months about this project, and who we've been narrowing down as to what we want to do in terms of this project. So I'll let Gabriel take over and present his company's tutoring program.
Thank you, Mr. Planas. Essentially, my name is Gabe Ning. I'm Director of Partnerships with HeyTutor. For us, we're essentially going to work with Bridgeport to help a lot of its students on the 6th and 9th grade, especially with mathematics, according to this grant. So, if you can go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about us. We've been in business the past 10 years, originally as a business consumer company. So we help children on the B2C side, and now we work with districts across the country, 70 plus school districts across the country. We work with 200 plus subjects, 50,000 plus students, and more than 500 schools. Some of the school districts we've already partnered with is one of the largest school districts in the country, Los Angeles Unified School District. We help with 40 plus school sites, all in person, with a lot of their after school and during school mathematics and ELA, which are the 2 core subjects that we specialize in. We also work with the Texas Education Agency in districts such as Austin ISD, another large urban district, and other school districts such as Castleberry ISD. Some other urban districts that we work with that might mirror the demographics of Bridgeport is we work with Inglewood USD, Glendale ISD, and so forth. If you can go next slide, please. So essentially, our program utilizes many factors, but one of the biggest factors we are proud of is flexibility. So we can help Bridgeport before school, during school, and even after school. During school, the push-in or pull-out model, which Mr. Planas already kind of explained. So we use 100% utilization of live hands-on and interactive instruction. These are all going to be in person. So we provide 3 main core competencies: in-person, high-dosage general education tutors, in-person paraprofessionals, and finally, in-person ESL/bilingual tutors. And I know that Bridgeport has an especially large bilingual ESL population too. So it's about 30 to 60 minutes per session. And we focus on flexible scheduling. A lot of our curriculum is geared towards recovering unfinished learning, especially from the pandemic on grade levels in middle school and elementary school, along with early high school. Next slide, please. So essentially with our professionals, what our tutors are going to have is 3+ years of experience, either in a private school, private setting or classroom setting. On top of that, they'll all have bachelor's degrees, and we also partner directly with your HR department to do national level background checks according to New Jersey state standards, along with fingerprinting and TB testing if that's required in your district. We have about a 4 to 6 week implementation timeline from the date we receive a purchase order and a signed contract, 4 weeks for more urban districts such as yourself, and then 6 weeks for more rural districts. By the end of this time, they'll be fully trained, background checked, and deployed at your school site ready to go. We basically take care of most elements within the program. So it's an all-encompassing program, including the price point. So it comes with our pre-trained tutors, W2 employees, our W2 employees. So we also handle everything through our HR department, whether that's issues with tardiness, absenteeism, or anything like that. We have a very strict tolerance policy on that. So our HR will take care of all that for you. We also have specifically project managers that talk directly to your individual school sites and your individual tutors deployed at the school sites. So they'll be keeping track on a daily basis to make sure the program runs smoothly. Then we have our customer service management team talking to higher level district officials such as Mr. Planas and anyone else on the district side, giving high level updates either bi-weekly, monthly, or however often you like. And then that's also a great time when you guys can give us feedback and then we can implement that in real time to our program. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about some of the vetting. So we work directly with your HR department. We have a lot of experience having worked with New London Public Schools in Connecticut with the background checks. So we're quite privy to what the background checks entail, the timeline with the background checks, which is why we do have the 4-week estimated timeline. And then we also take fingerprinting seriously, make sure to document all of that on top of TB testing if that's required in your district. Next slide, please. And this is just kind of going off what I mentioned for block scheduling. So part of our flexibility, we do schedule according to block scheduling. That's going to be approximately 20 hours per week for each of our tutors, and that could look many different ways. That could be, 5 times a week, 4 hours a day, 4 times 5 hours a day, or any kind of combination thereof. The main reason for this is to make sure we have a high tutor retention rate, and the district doesn't have to deal with the revolving of tutors because everything we do is going to be in person. This is just going to ensure that our 85% plus high tutor retention rate by having a minimum of 20 hours of work for each of our tutors. Next slide, please. So essentially, this is just kind of a little overview of some of our curriculum. So we always give the district 2 options. About 30% of our district partners utilize their own curriculum, and we have our tutors acclimate to that with built-in time during the week to kind of collaborate with the teacher or any point of contact in charge of the curriculum at each individual school site to make sure that each tutor is following the path that the point of contact would like. The other option is about 70% of our district partners utilize our own in-house curriculum. It's developed by our team of in-house curriculum specialists. They all have master's, PhDs in education, and it is going to be geared towards Connecticut state standards, K-12, ELA, and math. So perfectly aligns with the 6 through 9 grade high dosage tutoring grant that this program will be streamlined into. Next slide, please. Oh, and this is our dashboard. So we do have a built-in dashboard where you can track the progress. We're using our curriculum. We have diagnostics built into it. So we have a baseline diagnostic, a mid-year diagnostic, and an end-of-year diagnostic. All these will be visible to district administrators, such as yourself, through our built-in dashboard. And that way you have all the data points necessary to present at the school board, should you choose to renew the program at the end of this program. It is going to be capturing data such as attendance, and then based on our baselines, there'll be a lot of data points accessible that's specifically geared towards our curriculum that is going to be based on Connecticut state standards. So specifically 6 through 9 math, we will be tracking that data points, and we will be tracking more small checkmark mini tests. So that's all going to be available on the district dashboard. Next slide, please. This is just a little bit about our customer service that I mentioned. We do have a two-tiered method of communication. We have the project managers, like I mentioned, and then we have our customer service managers. Project managers, once again, geared more towards the individual schools, making sure everything runs on a daily level. And then our CSMs, customer service managers, talking to higher level district officials to make sure that they're aware of how the program is going. Next slide, please. And this is just a little bit about, once again, going over our 4-week implementation timeline. Once again, it does start as soon as we get a signed contract and a purchase order. And very finally, all our tutors are going to come from the local district or neighboring districts. We tap into many avenues a school district might not be able to, student alumni networks, college alumni networks, people we've already worked with in the past, consultants, and so on. So that is how we're able to find high quality individuals in a time frame given in a lot of districts such as New London, Inglewood USD, LA USD, and so forth. Next slide, please. This is just an overview of the projected cost. Our hourly rate is $55 per hour, and that's just a flat rate. And you can pick any kind of ratio you'd like. So if you want a 1-to-1 ratio, 1-to-2, 1-to-3, up to 1-to-4, which is the confines of this specific high dosage tutoring grant and the general definition of high impact tutoring. I think Mr. Planis already kind of mentioned the structure of our program, so I won't go back into detail with that. But at this time, I would love to open the field to any questions.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions? Mr. Woodson, do you have questions? Mr. Medina, do you have any questions?
I would assume, but I don't want to make myself look like a fool. What subject are we leaning for this tutoring program?
This grant is just for mathematics.
Great. And how many students are we looking at? Are we targeting? Because you mentioned 2 schools. So how many students would this be targeted at, or would this be accessible to? Do we have kind of like an...
Excellent question, Mr. Medina. 480 students is what we're looking at between grades 6 through 9 in the 2 schools.
That's awesome. I just wanted to say, because I was involved in the program when I was in elementary school, my only year that I served at Blackham School. And I tell you, it did turn around my math. And I went from hating math and being the worst subject, but to the best subject when I had somebody, like an individual from People's Bank, that was tutoring us in algebra. So I know the effects of some programs like this. So I'm excited, but thank you. I'll pass it over.
Mr. Sokolovic?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, a couple of questions, all for the firm. The financing questions were answered right away, straight off. Thank you. Yeah, as far as you mentioned guaranteed certified, and it's grade level and HeyTutor certified. We're not talking about Connecticut state certification. We're talking about what your specific certification process, correct?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, our tutors are going to have 3+ years of experience, either a private classroom, private setting, tutoring setting, or a classroom setting. And then vast majority have at least a bachelor's degree. So there won't be any official certificates, as in these aren't going to be certified teachers or certified substitute teachers.
Okay. And as far as your recruitment, you mentioned college campuses and such. What about retired teachers? Do you reach out to like retired teachers and try to get them to come back or whatever have you? Because that would be a nice.
Yeah. We cast our net pretty widely. The only thing is, it is usually hard to get teachers, and that's why we don't want to mislead people and say that we provide certified teachers. But if we are able to find one, we most definitely will send them over. We just want to make realistic expectations. So,
and seeing as this is a state grant and we can't really do anything about it ourselves, I'm wondering about the overhead ratio, because at $55 an hour, and I think I was certified staff, if I'm not mistaken, get about 35 per hour, if that's in the ballpark. I mean, if you can land anywhere like $30 to $35 an hour, you might get some bites.
Yeah. I think in general, we'll definitely reach out and see if we can find retired teachers. But one of the biggest cost points is a lot of our cost goes towards, we have a specific hiring team. We have the customer service management team, and then we also have the project managers. So a lot of this is going into the customer service side to maintain both communications, but also to maintain our level of standards when it comes to hiring high quality individuals. And on top of that, to make sure that each of these individuals keep performing for the entirety of the program. And that's where any extra money comes from, aside from paying the tutors.
Awesome. All right, and final question about the insurance. Bridgeport used to be unique. I don't think they're so unique as they used to be. But since your staff will be having contact with our children, we always insist on molestation rider. Is that included?
Yeah, so we usually do have sexual harassment training, including initial training. But we can always, for every district, we always can add additional addendums to any contract that specifically state that. So yeah.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Medina?
Thank you. I noticed on the last one I said a projected cost. And I think this is more for you, Mr. Gabe. That annual fee that I see, administrative cost, that's included in that number that you revealed to us?
Yeah, it's included
Thank you.
11,000. Yeah.
Beautiful. And second question for Mr. Planas. That grant, that state grant that we're using that you applied for and it was granted, is that a renewable grant?
Excellent question. And there's a possibility that they will have a round 2 of this grant.
Yes.
So that's why we wanted to start at this point and show that students could definitely grow by using a program like this in order to apply for further dollars. One important thing is that the grant was provided, like schools that received a lot of funding through ESSER received less funding through this grant. So for us, we received quite a bit of funding in ESSER, and so we went in knowing that if we applied for a lot of money, we were not going to get it. So we were very careful about that.
Great. No, excellent job done, because like I said, I know what that individual thing might spark in a child, to be, to have somebody like that as a mentor. And like I said, it changed me completely. So, great job. Thank you, Mr. Gabe. Also, great job presenting. Also, that way, I had one more statement that I wanted everybody to note, if I'm correct, for my other fellow board members and our chair, that I see that this is going to be implemented this year. This grant is for the 23-24. So this is something that we need to kind of like, it's at no cost right now and that thing. So I think it's something that we should really consider ASAP, because we want to give them the time to get those tutors vetted and into this thing. So thank you. I just want to note that this is for this year. That was one of my questions with the other contract. This is for the 23-24 school year, specifically this grant. So money that we need to use. And I think this is a great way of spending it. So I'll pass this over to the chair. Thank you.
Absolutely. That was a good point, Mr. Medina. With that said, any further discussion before we move on? Let's see any hands. So can I have a motion?
A motion to approve to bring it over to the full board?
Yes, for HeyTutor. So I'll second that motion. That was your motion, Mr. Medina?
Yes, it was.
I'll second it. And so committee members, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
All right, no worries. Well, that's it. All ayes carry it. So we'll move on. That will be presented on Monday at the full board meeting on the 22nd.
Thank you, everyone, giving me the opportunity. Have a great night, everyone.
Great job, Mr. Gabe. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Mr.
And then
Planas.
Mr. Planas, are you presenting the DreamBox as well?
I am,
Okay.
and I'm going to ask Mr. Sam to help me out one more time with the DreamBox. Thank you, sir. Yes, next slide, please. Thank you. So the purpose of this part is, my presentation is to acquire permission to purchase the DreamBox math program for grades K-12. I would like to add that I'm also going to ask permission to extend the current licensing for Reading Plus for the current grades, about 8,000 students for English language arts in my presentation also. Next slide. So I'll give you a little background about how I learned about DreamBox, and it's very interesting. When I first met Dr. Levy David, she said, hi, my name is Dr. Levy David, and I'm wondering what you know about DreamBox. It obviously didn't go quite like that because she's a very nice person, and we talked about other things. But the bottom line is that I really didn't know anything about DreamBox, and so I was a little ashamed of not knowing about this program. And anyone that knows me knows that I research really quickly things that I don't know. And so I went out and I started researching about this program. And right away, I noticed the power, how much power it has, and how it captivates audiences, how it captivates students and helps them learn mathematics in ways that no other program can do. As you know, or probably don't know, but currently grades 6 through 12 are using Khan Academy. And so these licenses are going to expire at the end of the year, in June 2024. And so Khan Academy, we've used it for the last 3 years. And what we notice is that it's a program where students are watching a video, and they have to use that video and kind of learn on their own through that video to gather their answer and their knowledge of questions. We notice that our students need something deeper than that. And so what we're looking for is a powerhouse way, a way to ensure that students know the concepts of mathematics, and they're not just memorizing steps and procedures, that they're really thinking and allowed to think through the computer to ensure that they're learning mathematics. As I mentioned before, we have also the Win Block, in which we utilize these programs. We utilize a Khan Academy now. In the lower grades, we utilize Moby Max. And these two programs are very similar in the way that they provide some knowledge, and then they allow students to kind of follow those steps. What we're looking for is something more powerful than that. We're looking for something that utilizes new technology to move the knowledge of those students and to allow those students to really think about the math that they're learning, and for the computer to make those moves that it could make when the students do not understand. And that is just the beginning of the power of DreamBox. We're looking for a product that helps us support the Win Block in order to move students from where they are to where they could be. Next slide. A little bit more. And so I have the pleasure of having the team from DreamBox here. I have Mr. Panameño, and I have Davis Hartley here with us. And I'll let them take over and tell us a little bit more about the power of this program.
Thanks so much, Tito. Can you all hear me okay? Thumbs up.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So first I want to say thank you for the opportunity to present today. I am Davis Hartley. I'm your sales representative at Discovery Education for our DreamBox learning programs. And again, I'm joined by Carlos Panamino, who is part of our sales leadership team, as well as Christy Robinson, who is your current implementation manager for both Reading Plus and our math implementation. And I've thoroughly enjoyed working with Bridgeport over the past year as far as the reading implementation has gone, and also working with Tito the past several months to build a plan to accelerate growth for your students in math achievement. Today, I'm going to provide a high-level overview of our why, our efficacy, and our student and educator experiences. Tito, if you could click 1 or 2 more times for me, please. And once more, thank you. So I'd like to start with sharing the full scope of our partnerships and who we are as a math program. DreamBox is currently used by over 200,000 educators and 5 million students across all 50 states, Canada, and Mexico. That includes both large urban and rural districts across the country. DreamBox is a kindergarten through Algebra 1 fully digital math solution for all students that is designed to complement, enhance, and extend teacher-led instruction and accelerate student learning. DreamBox is also designed to help support students at higher grade levels that are in MTSS or special education programs, which need additional individual support. And our program is available in both English and Spanish. DreamBox is the only tool that can capture student thinking, and it makes teachers' lives easier by mimicking the effects of a one-on-one tutoring session. We couple that with a continuous embedded assessment that generates a stream of actionable data and insights that make teachers much more informed, more efficient, and therefore much more effective in their everyday practice. The embedded assessment works as a formative assessment that assesses student needs in the moment and provides support both within lessons and tailored next lessons. Independent research has been conducted on the efficacy of our program by Harvard University, SRI International. We've also received research validation and recognition from STEMworks, WhatWorks Clearinghouse, Digital Promise, and Mathematica Center for Improving Research Evidence. The independent research done by Harvard revealed that students who use DreamBox on average for about an hour a week grow approximately 58% more than their peers who aren't provided access to our program. DreamBox Math has also received the same rating as Reading Plus by Johns Hopkins University's Evidence for ESSA, which is rated our math program as strong. And if we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. DreamBox Math doesn't just assess right and wrong answers. What we do differently is that we assess the strategies students use to solve problems to truly differentiate on the specific needs of every individual learner. DreamBox Math provides rigorous and engaging lessons to ensure your students build a deep and meaningful understanding of mathematics. We don't waste time with students watching video lectures, guessing at multiple choice options, or just answering questions on digitized worksheets. Our lessons are going to provide open-ended and exploratory and sense-making exercises that helps ensure students develop deep conceptual understanding. We support students' critical thinking development by helping them identify mathematical structures and finding relationships between concepts, and we always do this in an engaging, fun, game-oriented approach. DreamBox will also require students to apply the strategies that they've learned and build mental math fluency and auditoticity. And next slide, please. So DreamBox knows how valuable the minutes in a day are to a teacher, and we build our dashboard with this in mind. We surface information that supports their one-on-one conferences, small groupings, and the teachable moments happening in their classroom. Your educators are going to notice many opportunities to play lessons embedded within the dashboard to be able to help further support their students. And our job is to provide your educators with the vital data that is both meaningful and actionable. Your teachers are going to have the ability to connect directly with their students through the dashboard, receive alerts when students are struggling, and have access to valuable progress monitoring and proficiency data. Educators can also see commonalities among students and pull quick skills groups based on standards. We also help expand teacher capacity to meet students where they are to individualize math instruction at scale. They'll be able to use real-time data to know the right students to support with the right content at the right time. They're going to have flexible instruction models to support individual, small group, and whole group instruction. Educators will have the visibility into how students think and learn regardless of time and place. Administrators are going to be able to track progress and address math achievement opportunities through actionable, integrated assessments and curricular insights. The reporting suite will enable educators to monitor both usage and progress, track grade level proficiency, and target instruction individually and at scale. And I will turn it back over to you, Tito, if you want to go through the pricing and the scope of the implementation, or I can take that too. I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention a few things before we go past the slide. One of the things is we are currently utilizing the program at 3 schools. We decided to, before trying it district-wide, we want to make sure it's working and it really does what it's meant to do. And so we're trying it at Multicultural Magnet. We're trying it at Discovery. We have one more school, Multicultural Discovery in Johnson School. And I happened to visit actually twice already many of these schools. And what I noticed when the teacher said it's time to work on DreamBox, you hear a roar right away, like a cheer, like, yeah. And so I walked into Multicultural the other day, and I mentioned, I just happened to ask students, what do you like so much about the program? And basically they just all jumped at the same time and said different things. One said, I love the games. I love how I'm learning through just playing with different games, and how is teaching me step by step what I have to do. How it's making me think about what I'm learning, and I feel good about it. Another student said, I get to earn coins, and I could buy different things with these coins. And I asked them, how many coins do you have? And one student said, I have 5,000. The other one, 7,000. They get about 299 coins per activity that they do. So that means that this kid spent so many hours that has 5,000 to 8,000 coins. It's incredible. And then with these coins, they could buy different things in the program to make the program look different, to improve their avatar. It's totally different than what we currently had. And students are actually using this at home instead of playing their PlayStation or Xbox. They're actually utilizing this as a way of learning, not just learning, but having fun, having a good time while learning. So I just wanted to throw that out. And the program for mathematics, we're planning to have it for grades K through 12. And it's a 3.5-year license. Bottom line, combined with reading, actually reading is using Reading Plus. We wanted to have the Reading Plus license extended, and not only to have them end at the same time, but also to ensure that we get the very, very, very best price. This is a great program and something that we should have. Go to the next slide, please. So the price. The price is the regular price is actually $1.5 million. Because we're putting both of those programs together, math and reading, we got it down to $1,224,283. That's 3.5 years for math, 2 years for reading altogether. We're talking about 18,000 students for math, and 8,000 students for reading. They use it for grades 7 through 12. We also got the company has partnered with some companies that are providing a corporate sponsor, and I'll have Mr. Panameño explain a little bit about that. In order for us to bring that cost even further down to $1,026,332.81. Mr. Panameño, can you talk a little bit about that corporate sponsoring?
Carlos, I can I can take that. So we have found a corporate partner to help fund your implementation, and our social impact partners work to drive Discovery Education's mission of supporting all learners by directly investing into districts to ensure equitable access to digital resources. And I'm excited to let you know that if you move forward with the proposal, they have agreed to fund an additional $200,000 to help support Bridgeport Public Schools.
Thank you. Also, that's cover the professional development is covered under this funding, so we don't have to pay any extra for any professional development during the 3.5 years for the math implementation. Now, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. Can you the WIN block, for those who may not know, is that for younger grades, or does that go through 12?
The WIN block is K-12,
Okay.
And it's basically a slice of the time where they're doing acceleration activities for students.
Okay. So this will be implemented during that block of time for K through 12 in math and
Yes,
reading for
it
7
will
through
be.
12.
Yes, it could be used there. It could be used after school, during homework. It could be done at any time. Students have 24 hours that they can utilize this program, but mainly during that one block.
That was one of my questions too, but you had answered it. Is will they be able to use it at home, which is
Yes.
a good opportunity as well. And is there, this is probably a question Mr. Sokolovic will ask, but the difference in pricing between like Khan and this, is it going to be additional like monies that are needed, or is it kind of replacing Khan in terms of the amount of money and everything?
Yeah, this will be replacing Khan. This will be replacing all the other programs that we're utilizing. In speaking to Ms. Siegel, she has allocated money from ARP ESSER to cover both the reading and the math component of this program.
Okay. I'll yield my time to one of the committee members. Mr. Woodson, do you have questions?
No, I'm all good.
Mr. Medina?
So you mentioned already the number of years that we're looking at. So what the math is 3.5 and reading is 2 years. And we're trying to do this and implement this program this year, starting this year.
Yes, I want to implement this program right away. I think that it will help us in getting a direct jolt before students take the SBAC assessment. And it's so powerful already. I'm looking at the results from all the schools that are using it, and I'm just dumbfounded at how much the students are learning and how the data is showing that they're meeting those standards.
And I'm sorry, I don't have that number in front of me. So what would it cost for the remainder of this year if we were looking at doing it right now? And what would be the remainder of this year? What would it cost us for this school year?
So I'll let Davis answer that, or Carlos, but I will say that the money that I told you, the exact amount that I told you, covers the remaining of this year. So it's a 3.5 year license for mathematics. Everything ends 3.5 years after you purchase it. So it includes whatever time when you start up to 3.5 years later. But I'll let Davis.
It'll encompass all that time frame. Gotcha.
Correct.
Yep.
I'll yield my time to the chair. Thank you.
All right. Are there any further questions? Mr. Sokolovic?
Yeah, you didn't steal them all, but you stole some.
I left you a few.
Thank you. Yeah, I know most of the people I talk to, and my son has used the Reading Plus program, so no issue with the program. Just a quick question. I know some staff had run into problems, probably more for Mr. Planis than programmer people. Are we going to mandate that the teachers use this program a certain amount of time? Because I know that has caused issues with some staff members saying they had to get their time up on the thing and it's taken away from other issues.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Sokolovic, that's a great question. We are currently monitoring the usage. In fact, we started some time ago because when we make an investment, we want to make sure that people are using the products that we buy. After all, when I ask you for a specific amount of money, I want to make sure that it has been properly used. So we are monitoring the usage of all schools using all of our programs, and that will be no different to this one. Students, this year, different than all the other years, this year we have a win block. And so it allows us time to utilize all of our programs during that specific time during our rotations. So students are not just using the program, but also have another station where they're working directly with a teacher. The power is in that combination. It's utilizing the program, looking at the data, and being able to have a teacher there that could support that information. Did I answer the question? I want to make sure I did.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Planis, if possible on Monday, when if this goes through this committee on Monday, would you be able to present so far the data you have from those those schools?
Of course.
I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but on Mondays, you'll have to present again anyway. So if you want to if you can prepare that for us, that way we can kind of see what's happening in our district already using it.
Sure. I'll add a few slides on that.
Appreciate that. Mr. Medina?
Yes, Mr. Planas, like you said, I think I did want to piggyback on that this program is being used right now in some areas, correct?
This program is used in 3 schools, in the schools that I mentioned, Discovery, Multicultural, and Johnson, and it's used specifically for mathematics. The Reading Plus program is used in, I believe, and please don't quote me on this. It's not my area, but I believe it's 7 through 12. It's 8,000 students using it currently, and it's been in place for Davis 1 year.
I think since 2019.
2019, yeah. So they've been using it. I know before, when I started looking at this program, I went to the high schools specifically, and I asked them, what did you like the most about this program? And one of the principals said to me, I like the fact that I could open the program and see where each one of my students is at right away. And that was a high school principal speaking in regards to the hundreds of kids that they have.
Another question is this, because it has been used since 2019, according to the record right now. So I'll still ask the question. So this is not going to substitute another program that we have. So this is going to be an added cost to our budget, or is this going to substitute another program that we have that is not,
It's replacing Khan, right?
It's replacing Khan Academy.
It's going to replace that.
It will eventually replace Moby Max once the license expires. So we're not buying any other program. We're going to use this for 3.5 years. Now notice Moby Max is also used outside of mathematics, so social studies, science, and other areas. And so that's the reason for keeping that program. We already paid for license for, I think we have 2 more years left on that.
So can you get us, the board, like you just mentioned, I think 2 or 3 that are their licenses that are going to expire, that this would kind of take off of that. Those costs for those 3 or 2, whatever it is that is going to substitute it, those costs that we were already paying for those, that way we can get a number of what we're looking at, whether it's going to increase our costs or they're going to keep it the same or it's going to be lower. You understand what I mean?
You want figures, comparative figures with the programs that we purchased. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, exactly. So if this is going to take over, one of the programs that you just mentioned was the first one that Jen mentioned what's that called again, Jen, please?
Khan Academy.
Yeah. So for example, Khan Academy, if that one is not going to be used any longer, there was a cost to that. I would like to know what that cost was. If there's another one that's going to expire, which I think you mentioned another one that's going to expire soon, then if it's going to take, that one is not going to be needed or used, or we're not going to renew that contract, I would like to know that cost. Whichever ones are going to be substituted. If you don't mind getting that would help us. I think it will help the board, with our vote and knowing, the cost, because we got to consider every dollar like we know. I appreciate that.
Not a problem. One important thing to keep in mind is that it's the difference between the programs. So you're not just replacing one program with the other. You're buying a more substantial program that is going to help move our students even faster than what we have purchased in the past, because we were trying to save money. So because we were trying to save money, we bought these programs that did the work. I mean, did some work. But as you saw and you heard Dr. Levy-David, it did not move the needle as it was supposed to.
Amen.
So we could compare monies, but if we want to make change, we have to look at the product itself and what it could give us and what it has done so far. So just putting that out there.
Yeah. And I agree. I just wanted that information because it's going to help, I believe, having that data to move that needle when it comes to budgeting, to understand where we are, and not saying that, for example, that we're taking on another $1 million, but it's really not the case. So I just want to have the data. That way we can weigh it. And I understand what that means to you and to the district, because we want our kids to serve the very best. So yeah, again, I heard your enthusiasm. I appreciate the presentation, and I can see how it can work. Like I said, I'm here. I'm born and raised here, as you already know that. So I know what we need and what our kids deserve. And I'm not holding any dollar away from our district being used in the right direction. And that's why I want to propose something else to the board later. But thank you very much.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
yield to the
Dean.
chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do like that this is a K-12 program as well, that we can start them early on, in that. Mr. Traber, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Mr. Medina, Mr. Planas, I think that the question that I'm looking at is a sort of spinoff. Mr. Medina was asking about the financial comparisons, and I think that would be useful. But also, as Dr. Levy-David said, we also have been spending money on programs that aren't producing the results. And we've been using one of these programs now since 2019, as Mr. Davis said. So I'd like to know sort of what results have been since 2019 that we want to then continue to spend on it in the reading program. So
I think Mr. Davis wrote in the chat that was actually 2022. Was that correct? I thought I saw that.
Yeah, so it looked like I'm kind of going back to the records now, had a full or a larger district implementation in 2022. I can only see back as far as 2021 because of the acquisition of Reading Plus with DreamBox Learning with our system. But we have partnered with you to some level since 2021.
And I can just expand. My name's Christy. I live here in Connecticut. I'm kind of the implementation specialist. So we started with just one high school with Reading Plus about 3 years ago. Then we expanded to all of the high schools. And then last year we expanded to have that middle school secondary. So Mr. Traber, to your question about the Reading Plus, when I met with Dr. Jenkins at the end of last year, what we were able to see is that with students completing just a minimum of 40 reading lessons in our program, their average word per minute gain, because we look at our silent reading fluency, was 50 words, and they were on average moving up over 2 reading levels with just completing 40 reading lessons in the program, which is about an hour a week. So we have been able to show some success with the Reading Plus program, and that's part of the reason why Dr. Jenkins kind of expanded, because last year we had the conversation of we're only in high school. What if we can get this to our middle school students to kind of catch them earlier, and how might that affect their PSAT? So this year will be really interesting because it's our first year, kind of a full year in that middle school, and we'll be able to see like what difference that's made. But we have been seeing success with Reading Plus, which is why the district decided to kind of expand it a little bit over the past 2 years, and it's grown.
okay, so all I was saying was that for Monday's meeting, it would be useful to not only see the financial data about what we've spent, on this program and other comparable programs over the last few years, whether it's 2021, 2019, whatever those pieces are that you all are talking about, and what the actual data is that
For our schools.
that evaluates how we've done with it, what it shows us. So that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I was saying. That from
Mr. Traver, and are you looking for it in reading, correct? Because
you're bringing in math. I get that, Mr. Planas.
Yeah.
But yes, insofar as we have had experience with reading, that would be the relevant history. So yes.
Okay.
You don't have math data. I get that.
Yeah, that's my point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's no further questions, would somebody like to make a motion to move this to the full board? I can make the motion to refer this to the full board for approval to enter into an agreement with DreamBox. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, thank you. So it will move to the full board on January 22nd, 2024. All right. Thank you for presenting, and we'll see you guys Monday.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
The next item on our agenda is a discussion about the 2024-2025 school calendar. So I'm not sure who's presenting on that.
I can present.
There you go.
I thought someone else was jumping in, but I can present. So you have here in front of you 2 copies of the calendar. One is our current 23-24 calendar, and the second is the 24-25 calendar. The biggest changes to the new proposed calendar are longer breaks for Thanksgiving, making it a full week versus 3 days. Longer breaks for the holidays, making it 2 weeks instead of 1 week. And moving the winter break into the month of March instead of waiting until April. And these adjustments were included in order to adjust many of the concerns that I've been hearing over the past few months regarding timing, the accumulation of days, losing accrued days, and also the exhaustion that quite frankly comes after the first semester and pushing into the second longer semester of school, and the need for more thoughtfulness behind how we structure those breaks for our employees and also for our families. We're one of a handful of districts that have such few days around the holidays for teachers and students and staff to recover prior to starting the first semester. And so with that in mind and all of that feedback, I'm making a recommendation for the proposed calendar for the new school year.
Are there any discussions for this? I would say I like the March recess. I remember being in the classroom for a very long month of March, just waiting for April. So I'm not sure how they feel about that as well, but I remember that was a very long month for us in the classroom. And I see that April has a few like half days, and so there's some time in there as well. Mr. Medina, go ahead.
Yes, I haven't done the math. I'm just wondering, with the new school year, I know there is a mandate of how many hours, how many days, and things like that. I'm not sure what that number is. Did we assess that when we try to change the calendar? How many days and how many, hours the kids are in school?
I think
Yes.
there's 180 still on the calendar. I don't know if you see it's kind of small. It's in the bottom, middle bottom. You'll see
In the middle bottom?
of the first calendar. Last day for students, it says 180 there.
Okay, so that means
Yeah.
it's the same then.
Yeah,
far as-
same as normal.
Okay. Thank you. I know it will be somewhere, but I can't see it still. But I got you. Thank you.
I promise you it's in there. So,
I believe you.
Mr. Traber.
I'm sorry. I haven't yielded yet. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
I
Medina.
just wanted. Oh no, I see it. I see it. 3 Kings Days on there. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to see that. I just wanted to make sure 3 Kings Day was there. Thank you.
Mr. Traber.
Yeah, I was curious where this sits with regard to the coordinated state plan, scheduling. There had been a move a couple of years ago to try and have a statewide coordination of school schedules.
I don't have an answer for that question.
Okay. I actually thought about that too, and thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Traber. I believe that came up, Dr. Levy David, a couple of years ago, where they wanted school districts that kind of have aligned their weeks off and days off, because you have teachers who, teacher in Bridgeport but live in Seymour and things like that. So with their children's aligning with their children's day offs as well. Thank you for that question, Mr. Traber. I'm not sure if that's I will say I don't know if that's like a requirement to have the same days off. So maybe we should look into
it was never something that could be enforced, and it was chaotic. But I know they were, making efforts, and it never fully succeeded. So I didn't know where it was at I haven't followed it in the last few years. So
okay, so we don't know if it's
I didn't know where it was at. So that's why I was asking.
Okay.
It's not a mandate. I don't believe. So I was curious sort of what had happened since then.
Thank you. Mr. Sokolovic?
Yes, has this been coordinated with other unions other than teachers? Because some unions, like the janitors and other staff, have mandated holidays that are actually different. Are we sure none of those fall on the day? Because we want to have our buildings open when those staff are given holidays.
We actually had a lot of eyes on this calendar before bringing it before you. So yes, it included all members of cabinet and their respective unions.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further questions or discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Traber.
I'm sorry, it involved who, Dr. Levy-David?
That all members of the cabinet and their respective unions.
Okay, earlier I thought you said all members of the cabinet was, officers. It was officers. I misunderstood you. So who are in all members of the cabinet?
All members of the cabinet and their respective unions, which would be BCAS, which would be our teachers union, our tradesmen's union, our custodians union, our 1522, all of them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see the 3 hands still. I know, Mr. Traber, you asked your question. Other 2, do you still have questions? Okay, thank you. I don't mind moving this out of committee, but Dr. Levy, maybe we could talk about it on Monday about Mr. Traber's question about aligning with like the state calendar. We could look into that a little more, if that's something we could bring up on Monday to, see, and, any teachers watching, if you do have questions or not teachers, there's any staff, come to our public hearing on Monday, 6:30, and, voice any concerns you may have with this. But I don't mind moving out of committee for now, and we can have further debate on Monday. So do we have a motion, Mr. Medina?
Yes, I have a question, and I don't know if this is the right thing. So again, I'm a novice to these meetings, but I know Ms. Davis had mentioned some of the programs that, 20 plus programs that we have not yielded any results or true results or really have not impacted.
Mr. Medina, we're still talking about the calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Can I entertain them? I'll make the motion to refer this to the full board for approval of the 2024-2025 school calendar. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Sorry. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So we will move this to the full board for approval on Monday. And then the last item on the agenda, thank you guys for hanging in there. We still have one more big item on the agenda, but it's kindergarten enrollment. And I promise this committee, I will not have a 7:15 meeting again, but we will definitely meet earlier. But this is an important topic, and we wanted to make sure we discussed it sooner than later. So kindergarten enrollment.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. I'm the Director of Early Childhood, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about the kindergarten entry date change that was brought forth by this new state legislation. I do have a presentation that I'd like to share, so if you give me one moment. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, kindergarten entry legislation.
Yes. So in 2023, the state passed new legislation that changed the requirement for children to enter kindergarten from January 1st birthday to September 1st, which would essentially create the makeup of our kindergarten classrooms of comprising of all students that are 5 years old on or before September 1st. With that legislation came some flexibilities where parents may request early entry, and it also stated that districts and schools may rely on an assessment to determine if a child is developmentally ready and appropriate for kindergarten if they have birthdays between September 2nd and January 1st. What that means for the Bridgeport Public Schools is we have comprised a plan that would allow for parents to be able to request early entry next year if their child turns 5 between that September 2nd, 2024 and January 1st, 2025. The registration for kindergarten opens in March, and that registration would serve as the parent's official request to enter early. And included in that registration, we're planning to have a CDC milestones checklist, which is a 15-point checklist that parents can fill out. And that information would be available at the school level so that teachers and administrators could review that information when that child enters kindergarten. The decision to roll out the plan this way is for a couple of reasons. Early entry would support our families and eliminate the potential burden of an unexpected additional year of paying for pre-K or paying for childcare that they were not expecting. And this would also, it would support students enrolling in kindergarten. If we had a hard cutoff at September 1st, we may see that our enrollment would significantly decrease, and that could affect the number of kindergarten classrooms that we have across the city. And it could result in school closures, and we're looking to avoid that. Parents can choose to opt out of the assessment and remain in our pre-K 4 classrooms for an additional year if they choose. And also, if the child would benefit from another year of pre-K, the school campuses will work closely with those families to create a plan to enter kindergarten for the 2025-2026 year. So there will be some flexibility there in that plan. Additionally, there's 3 phases, 3 years to this plan. For next school year, the 2024-2025 school year, again, we will allow parents to request early entry to kindergarten, but we will create a September 1st start date for our 3-year-old programs. The idea of this is so that we can slowly over the next 3 years get our 3s, 4s, and 5-year-old programs to that legislation and that September 1st start date that has been set forth by the state. And but for next school year, we will allow our 3-year-olds to move forward to the 4-year-old programs, our 4-year-olds to move into our kindergarten classrooms. For the 2025 and 2026 school year, we will allow for that same flexibility and allow parents of children that have birthdays between September and January to request early entry and complete that checklist. But our start date for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds will change to September 1st so that we can, again, meet that legislation. And by 2026, 2027, we will have fully complied with the legislation and have a September 1st start date for our 3s, 4s, and 5-year-old programs throughout the city of Bridgeport. So just in summary, part of the legislation, parents will create the CDC milestone checklist for kindergarten consideration, and campuses will have flexibility and families will have flexibility if they feel like their child would benefit from another year of pre-K for the next 2 years. And as part of this presentation that I said previously, there are links to additional documentation that has information from the state, from the Office of Early Childhood, and the CDC milestone checklists are included as well.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Sokolovic. Or let me ask committee member first, sorry. Mr. Woodson, any questions? All right. I'm assuming no.
No
Okay.
questions.
All right, Mr. Medina.
No, thank you.
I'm gonna ask a question first, or just make a statement. Mr. Sokolovic, Mr. Traver, Mr. Benahan, and myself went to a key breakfast recently, and this was brought up with legislators. And Mr. Sokolovic actually is probably gonna speak about this, but he made a great point to legislators, and they were kind of surprised by this. Some of them didn't realize that this was an actual issue, but because our enrollment will be lower, this may in turn mean that we will have less funding from the ECS, and eventually over time, this cohort is going to go through 13 years of school, and that money won't be there. And eventually it will come back again. But some of the legislators weren't aware of that. This is also something that is out of our control because it's a mandate from the state, unfortunately. But we're going to try our best, it looks like, to make sure we can include as many families as possible. I do have a question, and you might have answered this, but for the CDC milestones, I saw that like a parent can fill it out. Is that going to be double checked by one of the teachers going in, so that it's not a parent just checking the list? Oh yeah, my son can tie a shoe, they can use the bathroom, they can do whatever the milestones are. Is that going to be an actual assessment in the classroom prior to enrollment?
So there are other kindergarten assessments that are completed at the beginning of the school year, some benchmark assessments, and there's a kindergarten entry inventory, and that provides the teacher with information about where those students are when they're coming in, usually right at the beginning of the school year, as early as September, if not early October.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan is that when the parents fill this CDC milestone checklist out, at the school level, they'll have access to those responses so that they can take a look at those prior to the beginning of the start of the school year, just to have a little something to get started with and start their planning as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Sokolovic.
Yeah, a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to thank you. This has been keeping me up since they first announced the law, because I always equated 400 or 500 students possible loss in ECS and all that. First question, has this been vetted through legal?
So it has not gone through legal, but I have been a part of a cohort with other early childhood leaders talking to other districts about what they are doing. And this follows suit with a lot of the other districts, and it meets the requirements. We're giving the assessment, we're allowing for the early registration, and we're taking requests. The registration counts as the request. One thing I can say that I have made sure of is with changing the start age for our 3-year-olds next year and 4-year-olds the following year, that has been vetted with our school readiness liaisons. And they have given us the go ahead to be able to change those start ages so that it aligns with the kindergarten legislation as well.
Right. I'm most concerned with the part of the statute that reads assessments must be done by certified. Let me see, can I bring it back up right here? By the principal and appropriate certified staff member of the school. Written into the statute.
Can I ask, Ms. Davis, are those assessments going to be the benchmarks that you mentioned earlier, or?
There will be the benchmarks that happen during the school year once they've entered in. But we are going to, our plan is to take any requests from parents to enter early and get them into our kindergarten programs.
Right. I do not disagree with any of this at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just concerned that if we don't vet it for legal, we might get caught behind the 8 ball. So if we could just get this vetted by legal and have it pass, which I pray it does, I think it's good. And I think we should use every possible way to keep our children in the schools, especially in our community, because it has a disparate impact. Now, year 3, where it seems to all come to an end. We're basically kicking the can down the road, which is not a bad thing, not a terrible thing, because it might be our only option. But it looks like the way it reads, it looks like we totally stopped the assessments in the early into the early admissions for students who may be developmentally able to attend, and then we have the same issue. Is there a plan to still allow parents to request it with maybe some additional safeguards in place or something?
I think we would need additional information from the state because, again, you know, as Ms. Perez stated, this is legislation and it's something that we have to meet. And, you know, right now we do have these flexibilities and we'll have to wait for more information from the state and from the Office of Early Childhood to see how long these flexibilities will be implemented.
All right, okay, final question, observation, request. As far as any students who may or may not be rejected, can we track those students by demographics to ensure?
We will complete the assessment, but any parent that asks for early entry will receive early entry.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you. Great job. And I love this totally. Just the one concern is the get it past legal.
Yeah. Before you go, Mr. Traber, I just have a question, just to go off of Mr. Sokolovic's question about the 3-year rollout. You know, one of the things we talked about, or we were in discussion about last week at that breakfast, I believe it was, you correct me if I'm wrong, the other attendees, but it was a superintendent of Stanford who mentioned there was a rollout, like they were either they had been a part of a rollout program before or something to this knowledge, but sorry, basically over time they will, like the first year it would be left alone, like we would do the waivers as is, but then the next year maybe anybody will take people up until November 31st birthdays, and then the following year October 31st. Is there a possibility we could do something like that if the state legislature doesn't make changes? And the others that were there, if you want to like add on to that, because I know I probably butchered what they were saying.
That actually was something that was thought about and considered. One problem that we would have with that is we have a large number of students that are enrolled in our 4-year-old programs. And if they remain in those 4-year-old programs, those are seats that are not available to the community. And we want to make as many seats in our public schools available to the community as possible. So we would like for, you know, all students that may fall in this birthday between September and January to have the opportunity, but especially those that are enrolled in our 3- and 4-year-old programs to be able to move on to the next program so that we have those available seats right now in our public school programs to welcome more families and more students into those programs that already exist.
Thank you. Mr. Traber?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I do applaud the effort too, and I want to give credit. Mr. Sokolovic has been raising this issue since the first CABE meeting in the early fall, and at the CABE meeting that we all attended, CABE CAPS convention, he raised it again vigorously. There was a growing awareness there, I think, of the problem, and obviously you all are addressing it with this approach. But you know, there was a lot of, among districts, smaller districts, less impacted, wink, wink, nod, nod, we're going to handle it this way. And I think that's where Mr. Sokolovic's concern is. In the smaller districts, the wink, wink, nod, nod, we're going to handle it this way, they're small enough that they might get overlooked by the state. But in a larger district where the ECS money is of such significance as it is in a district like ours, it is worth making sure that we are not crossing a line that the state's going to care about. And so I want to echo Mr. Sokolovic's concern at the meeting this past week that Ms. Perez is referring to. The district, that we still had a state rep arguing with us about whether it has a negative impact on a district like ours, and literally challenged Mr. Sokolovic on whether it was a bad thing, that it was only 1 year that it was going to have any possible negative impact, not a cumulative impact.
She was from an urban district.
Yeah, and so the superintendent from Stanford and Joe did explain to her how that worked, and other legislators clearly understood. But it was, it's still a growing need to make sure the legislators who voted for this last year, and I think without intent to make this happen, but without realizing the potential impact on a district like ours. And so I think I think it is doable, and with the work that you've put in and your colleagues to construct a solution that the legislature would be supportive of, because it is not their intent to, and I think that was a point made by Ms. Perez. I think you're referring to the legislator from who had lived in California in the Bay Area,
Yes,
in the Palo Alto area, who was referencing an implementation she had lived through with one of her children, where they phased it in over a period of years, changing it month by month each year, and the impact of that. But I think the legislators are sympathetic to seeing it done right. And there was extensive discussion within that room by the members of the board and administrators, as well as the awareness among the legislators that the often gap between policy and what reality is that needs to be bridged after they vote on something that everybody can agree is a good idea, but making it so is not always as easy to do. And so here, I think there was a consensus that this is a problem that should be addressed. So but it is important to make sure that we're within the boundaries of where the legislators are at now. But I think they also will be looking to address it in this short session that's coming up, because it is the type of material. They're not looking to make a major change. They're looking to fix a problem they created in the last longer session.
Yeah, and the session begins in 3 weeks. So I think this is something that we're going to be probably looking at again in this committee, and there might be some changes, and we're definitely open to the discussion as the session goes on. Mr. Sokolovic, I'll let you ask your question.
Yeah, no, it's not a question. It's just a point. All our legislators are going to be in the same place on January 31st. So it would behoove us and everybody here with their listening ears to attend. I forgot where it was. It's the Decline. It's at Decline, and
I believe it's at Housatonic.
Oh, Housatonic. I apologize. Thank you so much. Yeah. So it'll behoove us. People watch our webpage, our Facebook page. Maybe we could get something up on the webpage to call people out to come advocate for some more funding and for these types of issues.
Yes, especially since some of our legislators sit on the education committee. So if there's no further discussion, I would like to first, I would like to make a point for personal privilege. Mr. Traber, thank you for attending tonight. This is your birthday, so we want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service to our community. And then I will also entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Medina.
Mr. Medina, Mr. Woodson.
I make a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, I'll second that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion to adjourn has passed. It's 9:58. Thank you for hanging in there, guys. We won't do this again this late. All right. Have a great night.
Thank you.
God bless
Thank
you
you,
all.
guys. God
Everybody,
bless.
thank you.
Take care.